I overheard her whisper, "Once the mortgage is approved, I'm moving in with Mark. He doesn't need to know until after." And for a long moment, I just stood there, watching my future reorganize itself without me. I hadn't meant to hear anything. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was just walking down the hall with a mug of tea, thinking about our plans, the property we were about to co-sign, the investment she'd been dreaming about, the sense of stability we were finally building. Everything felt like it was aligning. But when I heard her voice, hushed and measured, drifting softly from her office, I stopped without thinking. Not because I suspected anything, but because something in her tone felt rehearsed. Like she wasn't speaking from uncertainty or nervousness, but from certainty, from completion, from a decision already made. I took one step closer. Just one. Enough to hear the quiet rustle of her shifting in her chair, the soft scrape of her pen as she scribbled something, and then her voice again. "It's fine. He trusts me completely. Once the paperwork is done, we're set. I can move into the studio with you. And after that, well, I won't owe him anything." A silence followed. Soft breathing. A sigh. Then, "No, he won't find out. I've handled him this far." Handled. Not loved. Not appreciated. Not partnered with. Handled. I felt something inside me settle. Not crack, not break, settle. Like dust drifting to the floor after years of being stirred by movement I never paused long enough to notice. I didn't enter the room. I didn't interrupt her call. I didn't demand explanations. Instead, I turned slowly, walked back to the living room, and set my mug down with deliberate care, as if placing it too harshly might wake me from the clarity forming in my chest. I sat on the couch and let reality rearrange itself. My girlfriend, Hannah, and I had been together for 4 years, long enough to merge routines, blend futures, and imagine a shared life in vivid detail. Long enough that co-signing a mortgage didn't seem reckless, but natural, the next step in a stable relationship. She'd been excited about the loft for months. A high-ceilinged industrial space on the edge of the Arts District. Concrete floors polished to a smooth glow, metal staircases, exposed ductwork, everything she'd ever dreamed about. She said she wanted to renovate it into a home office and design studio, flip it in a few years, and eventually use the profit as a down payment on a home together. It sounded like ambition. It sounded like partnership. It sounded like trust. But now, as I sat in the quiet, staring at the television that wasn't even turned on, I realized something else. It also sounded like a story custom-built to use me. I thought about the storage unit she'd been clearing the past few weeks, the one she said held old furniture, college art supplies, and sentimental items she didn't want to clutter our home with. She'd mentioned her ex, Mark, had helped because he had a truck and it wasn't a big deal. She said it with a casualness so effortless, so deliberately weightless, that I took her at her word. But now, I replayed every detail in slow motion. The way she came home smelling faintly of sawdust, the paint flecks she tried to wash off her arms, the tired but energized look on her face, as if she'd spent hours building something she couldn't wait to see finished. People don't get that expression from clearing a storage unit. They get it from preparing a future. Her voice drifted again from the office, muffled now, lighter, almost giddy. Not the tone of someone dreading a tough conversation or fearing consequences. The tone of someone anticipating a victory. I leaned back against the couch and let out a long, controlled breath. This wasn't an impulsive betrayal. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This wasn't an old flame reigniting by accident. This was planning. Strategic. Months in the making. Measured down to the signature line on a mortgage document with both of our names. The loft we were about to buy together, the project she'd praised as a us thing, wasn't ours at all. It was hers. And Mark's. Piece by piece, the puzzle formed. The storage unit was the studio apartment. The renovation supplies she bought were for a place I had never seen. The furniture she didn't want anymore was what she had been moving into that studio. The mortgage she needed me to co-sign wasn't just a financial stepping stone. It was the launch pad for the life she was already planning with someone else. And the moment her loan was approved, she would be done with me. Handled. I sat there for a long while, letting the room fall into a stillness so deep it became its own kind of clarity. Not anger, not heartbreak, not disbelief. Understanding. The truth had revealed itself cleanly, without theatrics. All I had to do was accept it. There's something strangely liberating about learning the role you've been assigned in someone else's script. Once you see it, you can stop playing it. Eventually, Hannah ended her call. I heard her chair scrape back, her footsteps padding toward the living room. She entered with a bright, practiced smile, the kind she always wore after discussing business stuff. "How's my little mortgage magician?" she teased, leaning down to kiss my cheek. I didn't flinch, didn't pull away, didn't reveal anything in my expression. I simply smiled back, a soft and steady one that didn't give her a single thread to tug on. "Doing all right," I said calmly, "just thinking about everything we're building." She beamed, entirely fooled by my tone. "Tomorrow's the big day," she said. "Paperwork, signatures, then we celebrate." "We will," I said. In that moment, she saw nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, nothing different. She didn't know clarity had entered the room long before she did. And in that clarity, I made a decision so quietly she never sensed it happening. I would not confront her tonight. I would not ask her why. I would not warn her. I would not argue, negotiate, or plead. I would let her think the world was still under her control. Tomorrow, in front of everyone she involved in her plan, her ex, her friends, the real estate agent she bragged to, she would learn the one truth she never considered. People who are handled eventually stop playing along. I watched her walk away, humming to herself, unaware that the entire foundation of her plan had already turned to dust. Tomorrow would be the day it collapsed, and I would be the one to quietly remove the final support beam. I didn't go looking for proof. That's the part people never believe when I tell this story. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't trying to catch her in anything. All I did was come home early. That's it. One small change in my routine, and the entire truth of our relationship fell straight into my lap. When I walked through the door, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She always had some kind of noise going. Music, a podcast, a show on low volume. Silence usually meant she wasn't home. But then I heard her voice. Not talking. Laughing. A specific kind of laugh. The soft, playful one she used to make when she wanted someone to feel chosen. I followed the sound into the bedroom, stopping just at the hallway corner, where the door was slightly open. She wasn't alone. She was on a video call, and the voice on the other end. I recognized it instantly. Her ex. No mistaking it. The tone was unmistakable, too familiar, too practiced, like two people slipping back into a well-worn rhythm. I didn't barge in. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, listening to a conversation I was never meant to hear. She said, "I'll come over this weekend. You just have to promise not to make it weird. He'll think I'm visiting my sister again." My chest tightened. That lie, again, told me everything. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a plan of pattern, a quiet betrayal growing in the places I trusted most. Her ex asked, "And he doesn't suspect anything?" She snorted. "No, he never notices anything. He's too busy being nice. Busy being nice." That one hurt more than the rest. As if kindness were a flaw. As if decency made me blind. As if consideration made me simple. I leaned against the wall and let the truth settle over me like cold water. All this time, I thought we were building a life together, slowly, steadily, intentionally. But she had kept one foot in her past, one hand reaching backward while telling me she was moving forward. The call ended with a promise. "I'll see you Friday." She sounded excited. That was the moment something inside me went still. Not angry, not shocked, just still. It's a strange kind of peace. Realizing someone you loved quietly stepped out of the relationship long before you knew you were standing alone. I walked away from the doorway. She never even heard me. And for the first time since I'd met her, I didn't feel the urge to explain myself or make sense of it. I simply knew. I didn't confront her right away. Not because I was afraid, and not because I was trying to catch her in a bigger lie. I waited because I wanted to speak from a place that was calm and unshakable. The kind of calm that comes when you finally stop bargaining with the truth. Friday came. She dressed nicer than usual, a little too eager, humming as she moved around the room. When she grabbed her overnight bag, the same one she told me was for her sister visits, I knew she was about to walk out of our home and step straight into the arms of her past. I let her reach the door before I spoke. "Where are you going?" She froze. Just enough hesitation to tell me her mind was spinning for an excuse. I told you," she said. "My sister's place." I nodded, slow and steady. Then I asked, "Does your sister know you'll actually be at your ex's house again?" Her face went pale. No theatrics, just the kind of silence people fall into when the floor disappears under them. She tried to recover. "You're misunderstanding." "No," I said gently. "I'm not." Her eyes darted around, searching for a version of the story where she wasn't the villain. She just couldn't find one fast enough. So she went for the oldest trick in the book. She softened her voice, tilted her head, and said, "Why would you think I'd ever do that to you?" "Because I heard you. Because I trusted you. Because you mistook that trust for blindness. But I didn't say any of that. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list her lies one by one. I didn't need her to admit anything, not anymore. Instead, I just told her the truth in the simplest way I could. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm just done." That broke her composure faster than any accusation would have. Her anger surfaced, quiet but sharp. "So that's it? You're just leaving? Over a misunderstanding?" I shook my head. "No, I'm leaving because you already left. I'm just catching up." I took my keys, my wallet, and one small bag I'd packed earlier. Not in secret, just in certainty. As I walked out, she demanded, "Where are you going?" "Forward," I said, and it was the first time in months that the word felt like it belonged to me. She didn't run after me. She didn't confess. She didn't beg. And I realized that silence was the most honest thing she'd given me in a long time. I stepped into the cool evening air, closed the door behind me, and felt something I hadn't felt in ages. Light, free, like a man returning to himself after being gone too long. And that was the real ending, not her betrayal, but the quiet dignity of finally walking away from someone who expected me to stay blind.